Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be back with you this week after a week off to the winter storm in New York, where Bold Brave TV studios are located. They had to close their doors on Tuesday and cancel the shows to keep the employees safe at home. And that's always the right decision with the unpredictability of these severe weather events. I mean, there's been so much devastation this year already, hasn't there? So I'm just very grateful that my colleagues are all safe and sound and well. Now, we were scheduled to talk about rebound relationships, score or setback. But for today, we had already scheduled a different topic. So we'll save our conversation about rebound relationships for next week, and I hope you'll join me then. But today, I'm delighted to have a special guest join me to talk about something we've likely all dealt with in our lives at one time or another, either for ourselves or in support of someone we know and love. And we're going to be talking about dealing with a diagnosis. And before I introduce her, I just want to again say thank you to everyone who's reached out to me in encouragement and support of this show, and letting me know how much it matters to you and that the difference it's making. And I have no doubt that today's show will do the same. So I proudly I call her my friend, Monica Housewright. She's not only a mom and a wife, but also, I'm going to use the word dynamic. She's a dynamic woman who embodies strength and resilience and passion for entrepreneurship, something I think many who listen to this show share, as well as, and I'm going to say this word, public commitment to helping others. And by that, I mean she is present in the community, using her personal and her professional resource to help the people who come into her realm of awareness, who are in need. She never ceases to amaze me with the initiatives that she engages in to help people who come into her awareness. And then she pulls her whole community of people that we'll talk about a little bit more about that community into also helping those people that she's discovered are in need. She's originally from the DFW area, and then she ventured into New York to explore the world of marketing. She spent 15 years as a corporate sales and marketing professional and manager at Medieval Times Dinner and Tournament, where she was instrumental in the growth of their brand. Now, in 2018, she opened the House of Mo boutique in historic downtown Grapevine, Texas. And this boutique is special not only because that's where I met her, but it's because she has this passion for fashion and for women and helping women uplift themselves and one another. And in this place, she has a motto that's all about helping women be confident, be beautiful, and to be themselves. And while she's been operating this boutique, she also, 2 years ago, got back into that career that she so well loves, which is marketing. And she opened her own business, Housewright Marketing, and has gone back into this landscape of helping small businesses kind of guide and consult them through this ever-changing landscape of marketing, using her skills and expertise that she's developed all these years. A true inspiration, Monica. I'm happy to introduce her to you. She demonstrates the power of determination, hard work, and showing that with passion and dedication, anything is possible. And while there's so much more that I could say, I think it's best that you learn more about her through the heartfelt conversation that she and I will engage in today. So, Monica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anne. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd love to really start by sharing how we met. Do you remember that day when I came into the boutique?
I'm sorry, can you still hear me? Because it.
Yes. Yeah, we do hear you.
Okay, but I can't see you. Okay, I can't see you anymore. Sorry. I guess that's okay. So how we
That's
met. So I
okay.
own obviously boutique in downtown Grapevine. And Sweet Ann came into my shop one day. She was new. She just moved here. So she was kind of like just shopping and looking. And we started talking about, she looked at the wall and she said, "Oh, be confident, be beautiful, be you." She's like, "I wrote a book about just about this." So we started talking. We had like an hour conversation. And we just felt like everything just fit perfectly together. And we had the same, we had the same mission. I was just doing it one way; she was doing it a different way. So I actually have her. I have her book in my store, and we've had book signings and, um, anyways. So that's how I met Anne.
Yeah, I will never forget that day. I was new to Texas in general. I'd moved from Montreal in 2019, and I kept seeing as I would turn the corner to go to South Lake, which is where I found fitness jobs right away when I came, and I was restarting my coaching practice here. But every time I turned the corner, there was this house of Mo on the corner of the main street of this historic district. And I'm like, what is that? I have to go in there. And I finally went exploring one day and I walk in and there's this beautiful woman that you guys see on the screen now, Monica, aka Mo, sitting there, and this beautiful women's boutique. And on the wall were those words: "Be confident, be beautiful, be you." And I just not long before published my book. Or I no, I must have come in 2020 because the book was published in 2020. But the final chapter is "Be Beautiful" with you written out YOU. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we engaged in that conversation, shared it, and Monica was so kind to offer to carry my book in her boutique. And as she said, we've had these different events ever since. And she brought me into this community that I was talking about, how she brings people in. I found out it was more than a boutique where I have lots of items in my closet now. And the previous episode was about purging relationships. And we used the metaphor of purging your closet, Monica. And I can promise you, nothing left my closet that came from House of Mo. In fact, I'm wearing my latest purchase today. You may recognize it. It's lovely. Thank you. But one thing that happened from that was I found that Monica brought people together. And in so doing, she would also learn people's stories. And when she found out someone had a hardship of any kind, then she would bring these women together. That she has these monthly kind of girls' night out themed parties, if you will. Then she also brought these women together to help the person who might be in need. And so, Monica, it's been a beautiful thing, and I thank you for that. It helped me find connection here in my new hometown. And starting over, for anybody listening, starting over is difficult when you move a lot and you have to plug in and find a way. And Monica gave me that opportunity. So I thank you so much. Something that happened that day also, as I looked above her head, there's these two beautiful pictures on the wall. One was a little girl dressed up, and she had this really cute coat with a fur collar, and another was, I could tell, was this lovely lady here, and as an adult. And I said, "Is that you as a child? Tell me about those pictures," because it sparked a new conversation about the whole opening of the boutique.
Well, actually, I'm going to give all the credit to my husband. He thought it told a visual story, of my brand, and that I'm just not a boutique. And like you said, we're a community of women that, we have together. But the picture of me being younger, it I think it represents that I've always loved fashion from a very young age, but I just never followed that path. I went a different path and obviously went to marketing. But that little girl on
Mhm.
the wall, I heard earlier, and I was like, that was a little girl who was very unsure of herself. But, you know, it was it was who I blossomed to a different type of, for as a woman. But that little girl,
Yeah.
she was so shy and so unsure and just going through so much that people didn't really understand. So, but anyway, it goes deeper than just a cute little girl with a belt. And the funny thing is, the back of the belt had my name on it. So now I'm laughing. I'm thinking all the kids that could be kidnapped with their name on the back of their belt. But I had the little jacket on, like you said, the fur, and I just thought it was cute. I love fashion. I mean, when I was about first grade, I demanded to have a rabbit fur coat. Okay, my mom said what? And actually still have it. It's in the boutique here, and it's little bitty, but I wore it so much that like I rubbed all the fur off, off the sleeve of it. I was so proud of it. And my mom's like, she tried to give me a fake one, and I said that's not real. So anyway, but I've always loved fashion. So sorry I went off on a tangent there, but yeah,
No.
that little girl, just, if I could go back and just talk to her, that'd be amazing. So,
Well, I think a lot of listeners can relate to that. I love that you have that picture and then the one of you looking so confident there, also dressed up, if you will, on the wall. It does tell a story. And I know that today, Monica, we're going to be really talking about dealing with a diagnosis and specifically for you, melanoma. But that wasn't your first struggle in life. And I know that because I know you well enough. We've shared a lot of things together and shared stories. And I also know there's something in you that's common to a lot of people who overcome adversity. But before we get to all that, when do you recall your first big struggle in life?
I would say my first big struggle, very young, around 3 years old, my parents divorced. So that was a very difficult time because as a child, you just don't understand why. And you're pulled from one direction to another. It's really difficult. And I think, even though I did divorce my ex husband, my father's son, and you never mean to do those things, but it does hurt. And you don't realize the damage sometimes that it does to children. So that was really damaging to me and understanding, like, feel like you have to take sides, mom or dad, right? So it's
Mhm.
this type of war kind of thing, So that was really difficult growing up, very difficult.
Yeah. If you had to, label your childhood with one word, what would you call it? From that point forward, from that first memory you're describing at 3 and that tug of war, was there a
Um,
word to describe your
it just passed my mind would be challenging. Challenging
challenge?
was
Okay, okay. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Um, so if you had a message to listeners in general about challenges, what would it be?
what would it be? It depends on the challenge. I mean, I think that I think it's so important, and I'm learning now. And you take this for granted, but live in today, live for today, right now, this moment, right? You can't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Live in this moment. Be thankful every day when you wake up for this moment you have. I mean, that's the most important thing, and I think that helps you overcome those challenges if you live
Mhm.
this moment now, and then you say, okay, what am I going to do? I have this challenge. It's 2 hours ahead of me, right? I'm dealing with what am I going to do in the next hour? Like you have to prepare yourself. I think as you get older, you become more mature and figure those things out.
For sure. And take us on a little bit of a journey because you mentioned divorce. There were some things that other things you've dealt with in adulthood. So, do you want to share a little bit of those with our listeners?
So those are some things that are really hard for me to share. And going back to as a child, I felt like my parents really tried hard, and it's not their fault or anything like that. But growing up, I think that carried on into my teenage years, being very insecure. And obviously, my friends say now, and even though I'm a little insecure right now, because this is hard to do, be on TV, I'm a very outgoing person. So
Yeah,
when but I'm shy. That's my natural who I am. They look at me and they're like, "What? How can you're not shy?" But that's one of the reasons I went into marketing is because it was a challenge to me. I felt like I would have to put myself out there, right? And I can't just, I felt like I'm up for the challenge, right? And I'm not going to just take a back seat and say, "Oh, this is the easy way through life." I don't want that easy way through life. I want a challenge. So, so anyway, I'm sorry if I where am I going
no,
the rest
no,
of this? So
no, that's okay.
going into my
Yeah, I
teenage
know
years,
that.
I think I struggled
Yeah,
with. And then, going to college. Unfortunately, I did not have that opportunity for my parents to pay for college. So I worked, 2 and 3 jobs to put myself through college because I knew, I did come from a very educated family, but that's not something that was given to me, but I felt like it was very important. So it took me 6 years to get through college, but that's okay. Then I moved to New York City, and literally 2 months after I moved to New York City, 9/11 happened. So that was a really, really difficult time. That could be a whole nother episode. I was there
I'm
alone,
sure. Yeah.
absolutely alone to death. So I went into that childlike state. I can be honest with you. That's what I tend to do whenever I can't deal with something. I go back to that child, right? And
Mhm.
I just want to crawl up in a ball. That's how I want to deal with things. So that's how I felt.
Right.
And then
I
after
can only,
that, yeah. So then after
yeah.
that, I did meet my father's son, and we were married for 7 years. We moved back from New York City, moved back to Grapevine. Um, Unfortunately, it just didn't work. It just didn't work out. Sometimes things don't work, and that's okay too. Um,
Yeah.
and after that, I'll kind of briefly go into I had 8 years of being single. At that point, you know, I was dealing with some things, and of course, I was turning to alcohol. I had a full time corporate job. Now I'm a single mom. I've got a whole house that I'm running, and responsibilities, bills, all this kind of stuff. And I was drinking probably a little too much, but I was doing that for reasons, not just because that I was an alcoholic. I really thought was becoming an alcoholic, but I wasn't. And come to find out, years later down the road, when I met my husband, my current husband, Jay Housewright, which I love very much, I tried to
Yeah.
hide that from him. But and I did I actually knew that it wasn't working for me. So I checked myself into rehab, and I had to realize I was either going to lose my marriage and my marriage, my husband, and my son, everything else. So I made that choice for myself. Um, but going down the path, when I got with the right doctors, I was not an alcoholic. It was dealing with mental health. That was the way I was covering up and trying to, you know, pacify myself, and because I didn't have the treatment I needed. So that's a whole another story too. but
Yeah. I mean, there, I think we could probably do episodes on lots of different things,
I
couldn't
know,
we?
I'm like, I'll be
But
back.
what I'm hearing from you there, what we're going to get to today was not your first challenge, and I'd love that you are very um, open, vulnerable, and brave, and bold enough to say, there was this and this and this, and I found out this about me and this about me and this about me. And what I'm also hearing is that you found love again. And it's time for us to take a short break. I think that's a great place for us to go, or to take this break and to come back with that message in mind before we get to this next big challenge in life. Listeners, don't go away. We'll be back with Monica and more of her story in just a heartbeat. See you soon.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
And welcome back. I'm glad you've joined us today for this special conversation with my guest, Monica Housewright, aka Mo. And before the break, we were talking with Monica about, life challenges before she got the diagnosis or heard the words, you have cancer, and in this case, melanoma. And before we get a little more into that, Monica was sharing about some challenges and being very open and honest that even about a misdiagnosis, if you will. She was thinking that she was becoming an alcoholic, but what she learned about herself was that she was just using alcohol to cope with what the diagnosis really was actually um, more related to a mental health issue. So, Monica, what can you share a little bit about that and how your husband helped you with that?
I just want to first say that it's okay not to be okay, because I think that mental health has such a bad stigmatism out there. And I think people are starting to understand it more, that it's not our fault, right? And it's easier for me now to speak open and honest about it, really is. Um, because I think our society is more acceptable to it now. Anyway, so I do want to talk about yeah, I'm, so it's okay. That's the thing that I just want to say. I mean, everything, it's okay. But how I met my husband, such a great story.
Yeah.
And sometimes story and people don't ever believe it. They're like, "What?" So Jay Housewright and I both went to high school together. We just ran in different circles. I'll be honest, I always thought he was super cute and hot, and but we didn't have the same circle of friends. We went to a very big high school, so you know, I don't think we talked ever in high school. Like literally, I just knew who he was, and he knew who I was. But anyways, years down the road, let's see, 9 years ago, I was traveling for business, and I was riding on the beach, and I took this picture of me running. So I was training for a half marathon, and he said on my post, he said bragger or something like that because it was snowing here. Anyway, we started talking back and forth, and literally, I said, and this is totally out of who I am. I said, "Would you go on a? Can I take you on a date when I get home?" So we met at Del Frisco's Grill. We have our little space that we like, to sit at. That's our space, and where we met. Anyways, we got married 3 weeks later. Nobody knew we were dating. So we didn't even tell
I love
anybody. My mom said when I told her we got married, she goes, "Who are you dating?"
I
Facebook.
love that.
We announced it on Facebook. We had our coffee cups and it said Mr. and Mrs. from Starbucks. We just had them up together and we just shocked the world. Like it was just crazy. But so that's how we
What a
met.
great,
And yeah,
great
nobody,
story. Well, that gives people hope in a lot of realms, I'm
but
sure. But the fact that yeah,
in April coming up, nobody really thought we'd stay married more than a year. But to be honest, the first 3 or 4 years were very difficult because I was dealing with my problems, right? So, um, he's just he changed my life and he really saved me in so many ways. He's been my rock.
okay. So, so you moved through those challenges, the alcohol masking, what you finally learned, or the other issues. I know what you did with those, and you went and you got the help. And that's what I know about you. When you find out what it is, you go, you tackle it, and you deal with it. You hit it head on. So, what got you, or who got you to go to the doctor's office to find this out?
Yeah, that would be Jay. That would be Jay Housewright.
Yes.
I I went. He's a good man. I went when I was 32 to the dermatologist, and I had a precancer spot removed from my stomach. And for some reason, well, I did go back. It was 5 years between I went there, but when I was leaving my corporate job to start my marketing and start my boutique, and then after that I waited 5 years. And I just life happens, right? You get busy, and as a mom and business owner, like, you don't take care of yourself as much as you need to and keep those regular appointments. And it's just kind of like, oh, I'm fine. Well, I had a spot on my trapezoid, my shoulder right here, and he kept pointing it out. You need to get that checked. I was like, it's fine, leave me alone, it's fine. And it was just a little pink round, like, raised bump. It was not a big deal, right? And so and when I first got it, it was felt like a pimple, and I would kind of pick at it, and it would kind of come off and then bleed, and it was just kind of this whole thing for about a year. So when I went to the doctor, I really don't even think my dermatologist thought it was melanoma, and so because it was pink, and I'll just say this, that the majority, it's like 95% of melanoma is either brown or black. It's very rare for it to be pink. Mine was pink. He didn't even think it was melanoma. So when I was taken off, and we'll go into that in a second, but he is the one who encouraged me to go to the dermatologist. So
Wow. Yeah. There you go. So, how did you initially cope with that diagnosis? Those words, you have cancer. I mean,
oh, and I was actually here at my shop during the week by myself. I got the call from my doctors, and I should say his name because it's really funny. It's Dr. James Bond. Dr. James called me, and he told me that we have received your biopsy reports, and it's not good. You have melanoma, and you're stage 3. So to be honest, I never heard stage 3. All I heard was, we think you 2B, and I thought it was stage 2B. I never heard stage 3. Didn't even know it for the longest time. I went my I went dark in my mind, and I don't remember anything. I just felt like everything was spinning, and I couldn't comprehend, because they started talking about, you've got to go to T Southwest, you're going to have a surgeon, you're going to have all these therapies, immunotherapy, and I'm like, what? Like, and I just broke down. I called Jay, first person. I said, I have cancer. That was it.
oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm too young.
Um,
I'm 46 years old. How can this be?
yeah.
So,
And after that initial, I'm sure, shock, because you weren't even hearing Dr.
mm,
Bond say what else he had to say. What did you feel next?
I felt so scared. All I could think is, I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. And I know enough about cancers, and I've heard enough about melanoma, how deadly it is, and I've heard about people who've died with melanoma, and I knew it was bad. I knew it was a bad thing. It wasn't like I just had some little skin cancer. Like, it was like, I've got melanoma. And at that point, I pretty much froze up. I was paralyzed. Best way to say it is I was paralyzed. Um, Jay immediately jumped in. Get my rock. I don't want to cry. He called. He called our insurance company. He is the one who contacted a surgical oncologist. He is the one who got everything set up, because I froze. I just couldn't deal with it. I was in this total state of, I was being lost. I was just lost myself, right? And I like I said, I crawl up into a ball. That's what I do. That's how I deal with this, and I don't do well with it at all. So
Yeah. Um, Sounds like yeah, Jay's been your rock, and again, knowing how you respond to difficult times initially, and then where you come out of, but that support of someone like Jay, and then a support network in general. Who else have you had in your support network, or have you had a greater support network?
I went to I called my mom. That my next call was to my mom, and I think she's still trying to process it. It was something she was not willing to accept when she heard it as well. Um,
Right.
I immediately went to my friends, my community of women, and told a couple of them and said, I'm dealing with this and I just really need prayers right now. And I don't want to do this alone. So I had like a huge, I don't know, probably 50 women that were praying for me and threads, and I would give them updates of, okay, my surgery's now, this date or blah, 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 blah. But they were my community of women. And, for my birthday, they all dressed in black and I just support, because that's the melanoma color, right? Just wonderful support group, prayers, calls, just, I couldn't ask for a better group. They were so uplifting and really got me through a lot of it.
I think that's important for the audience to hear because not everybody here has a J on their team, right? But to to open yourself up to share it with others. I know you found a Facebook group too that's important to you. So if you don't have even that community of physical people around you, there are people going through what you're going through. So nobody has to go through any of this alone. If you also have heard those words, you have cancer and you freeze. When you start unfreezing, there are people out there and available to you. Tell me about your Facebook group that you found, Monica.
So, well, I started doing my initial research about melanoma, and I realized that I found out that it's only like 2.6% of Americans ever get that diagnosis, and the amount of women is like 1%. So it's very, very rare. So I thought, I don't know anybody right now who has melanoma. My doctors have told me so much. Like it's like when you're told you have cancer. It's like, now what? You don't get a playbook and say, okay, you need to do this and this and this to prolong your life. It's just, now what? Right. So I did my research and I was like, this is really rare and I'm really scared and I have nobody to talk to. So I started looking on Facebook and places and I found, it's called Melanoma Warriors, I believe is what it's called. And they have like 12,000 members. And these are you know, people have been surviving melanoma for 15 years. There's people, rest in peace, poor people, people who have passed away from melanoma, people who have gone from stage 2 to 4 literally in a year, but people who are stage 4 that it's metastasized to the brain, they're still living, and they're living 5 years later and with no evidence of disease. So it gave me a lot of hope, but it's also a place I could go and find out information because there's so much misinformation out there about this type of cancer. So
Yeah. What a
yeah.
what a great thing. So what about your
Yeah.
perspective on life in general? How has that changed,
Oh,
if at all?
well, I'll be honest. The last 4 months have been up and down for me, up and down. And my poor husband has always been taking the brunt of everything, and he literally a couple weeks ago said, "You've got to stop dumping on me because it's too much for me." I know he's dealing with it in his own way. Um,
Right.
I'm trying to accept it. But what I had to finally come to the realization is, again, tomorrow isn't promised. I only have today. So literally I wake up every day and I tell myself, I might have melanoma, I might have cancer, and it's awful, right? But it doesn't have me, right? So I'm gonna live today to my fullest, tomorrow and the next day. But I think everybody should live like that. I really do. I really think that's
Yeah.
the way to live, and stop. Yeah, we all want to have plans for like next month or whatever, but what's important today to you? And don't take things for granted.
Yeah. I
But
love that. I really love the cancer. I may have cancer, but it doesn't have me. What a great mantra to get up and say every day, to be able to put your feet on the floor and look yourself in the mirror and be your
I'll be,
own melanoma warrior. I love that term also from the Facebook group.
but I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Days that I don't say that and I don't do it, and I struggle on those days. And I come home. Those are the nights that um, I find myself on Google. Stay off Google, right? Stay off Google because if you're on Google, 2 weeks, right? So I mean, I've I have so many funny things about. There's been good things and bad things, but like I'm trying to find some humor and things as well. Like I've been to the dermatologist 3 times in one this year already. It's ridiculous, right? I
Yeah.
had a little thing going on, and I was thought I had brain cancer. Like, so stay off Google. It makes no sense. Like, stop. But the days
Yeah,
at morning, I struggle the most. And, I was going to tell you the reason the days, my husband knows that I am having good day or fighting it is I stay really busy. We could be watching TV, but I've got my computer and I'm working or I'm doing something because if not, I'm going down that rabbit hole. So I'm still learning to
yeah,
accept, to be honest. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it's time for another short commercial break, and then we'll be back in a heartbeat with more Soul CPR, so don't go far.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with the lovely Monica Housewright, who's been very bravely sharing her story with us about her journey through her diagnosis, her very recent diagnosis of melanoma. So, Monica, I'm curious. You before the break, you were sharing about don't Google, right? Because going to Google is like going to this never-ending source of oftentimes misinformation, over information. I'm sure. Um, Information overload, if nothing else. But what are some of the misconceptions that you've encountered during your experience that you'd like to share with us?
Gosh. Well, one of the misconceptions, and I kind of briefly touched on it, is that it's a certain color, right? So that's mine was pink. Most of them are brown or black. That was a big misconception. Um, people don't understand. I think people think that, oh, you have something growing on your skin. They can just take it off. It's not that like that at all. Um, Mine was just a little spot, but I basically have I'm a 6 to 7 inch scar on my back plus on my neck where they took out lymph nodes. So there's a lot of misconceptions on, like even one of my doctors, I'm not going to say who it was, but was a little surprised that I had that big of a scar on my back from a little spot of melanoma. But it does happen, right? And that's part of how they get it out because you've got to go really deep. The other thing is, and it's like closing up a sandwich bag. They explained it to me. But the other problem is that melanoma, it likes to spread in your body. It doesn't stay in one place. It needs somewhere to host basically. So all the research I've learned is that it goes to your lungs, your brain, and your liver is and your bones are the common spots. So I don't know enough about. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I don't believe that some of the other type of cancers do that as much, like breast cancer and things like that. But this is something that travels around, needs a host in your body, it needs to live somewhere, and so I've learned also that I've had to change my diet. I'm a very small person originally, and so I can pretty much eat whatever I want. But I think that between my stress of running multiple businesses and not eating healthy, not taking care of myself, probably brought a lot of this out. So now I'm really on a very strict kind of like Mediterranean diet. You cut the alcohol, which those things are easy for me. Cut the fried foods. So no fried foods, no alcohol, and no sugar because cancer loves those. That's what they need to survive. So if you eat those things, then what I've learned is that um, you cause inflammation in your body, which then weakens the cells, and then the cancer cells can penetrate those cells. So it's all about like the way you eat. I need to be working out. I haven't got to the point of working out yet, but I take a lot of supplements as well because of research. And I found, if there's somebody who I met that was so inspirational that he had stage 4 and they gave him like 6 weeks to live or 6 months or whatever, but he was taking all these supplements and now he's cancer free. So I've just
Wow.
studied so many people and like, as much as I can, Netflix, series and finding it in all these Facebook groups, just I've tried to educate myself. Like you said, I want to lean into it instead of like run from it. I'm just like my husband says, you're too stubborn to die right now. You're just a stubborn person. I'm like, maybe so. So I'm just
I
like I
love,
let it take me down. It's just I can control a little bit of it.
and that's what I know about you is that yes, maybe you curl up, you become that child, you go back to that in the beginning and you freeze and you hide for a bit. But even before you had Jay, when you go back and you think about your life challenges, you came out and you started facing them head on. And that's something that I see common in people I work with who overcome adversity. And it's very apparent in you. And the other thing that I see that's very common in people who overcome adversity is that they get outside themselves and they help others. So while you're out here gathering information, educating yourself, I've also noticed you out there educating others. So tell us about what you're doing on TikTok.
Okay, here we go. I knew you were going to ask this question. Um, so part of the reason I did this is because obviously I feel like I have a lot to say, and I am a very shy person. I really am naturally. But owning a boutique and owning a marketing business, and like tomorrow I have a big presentation, those are things that get me out of my shell. However, I felt like you're either a scroller, right? Or you're a content creator. And due to the fact of my businesses that I have, I'm a content creator. Not because I want to be, but just I am. So, and I knew I was driving my husband crazy every night, like dumping on him. Did you know about this about melanoma? Did you know about this? Like I had all these facts, and sometimes he's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So I thought, you know what? I was on TikTok one night, and I'm like, typed in melanoma. I'm like, there's not a lot about melanoma, is there? And I was like, I have a lot to say. So, yeah, I started this page on TikTok, and it's Melanoma Sux, SUX. So, and I just am able to be really candid and real. And my husband knows nothing about this. So, hi, Jay, by the way.
He does now.
Yes, now. But it's a place, I've only got there's only 3 posts so far. It's not a big deal, but I've been able to get some feelings out, and talk about what I know. And I feel like like I said, there's not enough education about it. And, like TikTok is really like the new Google. So, I mean, if you go to Google, it's like all this misinformation. But if you're on TikTok, you have real people talking about it and real things that are going on, like through your treatments and whatnot, and like what to expect or funny things. Like it's real, right? That's where you want to get your information from. It's from real people. So, I felt like, I just want to do this. And, it's been a good outlet for me. It really is. And I also feel like I'm helping other people. So and it's real and
I,
raw. It's not good. It's me talking. I might be in my car or, whatever. I mean,
yeah,
it's me and
yeah.
I'm happy to have the outlet. So
I love it. I love it. Um, so what advice would you give someone? Well, I know you're doing this in TikTok right now,
mhm.
but what advice would you give someone who's listening right now to us who gets a melanoma diagnosis right now? What would you tell them? What's the first
So,
thing? You said the what's next, right? What's the first what's next?
oh gosh, that's a hard thing because I'm still learning how to navigate this. I would say, like I did, bring your friends and family and close. And the other thing is because when I go to appointments, for some reason I don't hear them correctly, or my mind is just spinning. So bring a loved one with you. Like Jay was with me yesterday. I had like 7 hours of scans, bone scans and CAT scans, and just make sure that cancer hasn't moved around my body. Hopefully, we'll know on Friday, so hopefully everything's good. But you know, stay off Google. Stay close to your friends. Let them know. Let them be your support system. Um, have somebody there to support you when you go to these appointments, because it's so important. You won't hear everything they're saying. Um, and then just take it day by day, one day at a time. I mean, literally, that's how I have to live, because I kept asking. I felt like such a victim at first. I'm like, I'm only 47 years old. How can this be happening? And I've cried so many times. I want to die. I don't want to die right now. I'm not done living my life. I want to see my son get married. I want all these things, and I know melanoma has a pretty bad, it's not the best prognosis. And so, but that's why I'm fighting it. And I'm not going to let this take me down. And, I want to be able to live 20 years, because I've read about those stories, and I know those stories that people have put on Facebook, and that I've read. And I know it's possible. So that gives me hope.
You bring up a very important strategy, if you will, when for people to cope with any diagnosis, I don't care what it is, and that is mindset. A victim mindset will help no one overcome. So it's very understandable with any kind of diagnosis, especially a devastating one, that we will go into a victim mindset. Why me, or why my family member, and and then we go into the woulda, shoulda, couldas. Well, what if I had eaten better? If I'd had a better diet 10 years prior, would I, be experiencing this? We go through these whole, the whole bargaining thing. It's really grief is what it is. And we'll beat ourselves up, and we'll move through, a pretty negative place for a while. But it's coming back to that positive place and having that determination that you're exemplifying for us now, and saying, I want to live. I want to this, and having a vision for your future and moving towards it. And I truly believe that we cannot help but help ourselves as we help someone else, as you're doing by sharing your story. And that's the whole premise of my co-authored book, The Gift of Shift, that you so graciously carry in your boutique, is to show through storytelling how we went through negative disempowered states of being without the ability to change our circumstance to more empowered places. And in the story, The Gift of Buoyancy, I share my son's diagnosis of epilepsy and the ability to hold on to hope when there was nothing else in sight, to change his diagnosis or his ability to overcome, was hope. So for listeners who are listening to this who don't have a good prognosis, look for the light in anything. And sometimes it's just the ability to hold on to hope and to have the determination that Monica is exemplifying today to get you through the next day. So that I may have cancer, but it doesn't have me. What a great mantra, Monica. That's empowering. It's positive. It's empowering. It's what will keep you afloat when things are hard. And Friday's results, I think everybody listening is with me when we say that we're praying for the best for that outcome for you. I've got more questions for you, but we're getting close to another break. But let me ask you this one before we go on break. What advice would you give the supporters, the Jays out there? What do the diagnosed need people in their lives?
What I need from them?
Yeah.
That's so hard, Anne, because I'm not in that position. And he's not my position. The best way to explain my position is being on an island or like in the middle of the ocean with floaties, especially for something that's so not common to have and not have that support, that group. But I know he's dealing with his own way of what he's thinking in his mind, and he's trying to navigate this in his own way, and everybody's different. So I have to give him space and respect him. But I don't know what he's thinking. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure he's scared, but he's also strong. He's very positive. So like I tend to go down this road. Like I'm so nervous about getting my results from my oncologist on Friday for my blood tests and all the scans. But I'm like, what if I'm actually, what if it's spread all over my body? And he's like, no, it's not. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, he's so positive. He's been so supportive. I don't know what I would do without him. But to be honest, I don't know what he's thinking. Like, I just don't know. But
It sounds like
he
what you're
does the
getting that
same
you
way.
need is positivity, calm and
Yeah.
positivity. Is my maybe at least two ingredients to a recipe that's very helpful for you that supporters of people with diagnoses could certainly use. Well, thank you for that.
Mm.
So, listeners, we're going to take another short break. This is our last commercial break, so don't go far, and we'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I just want to say thank you to Monica for being my guest today and to sharing her journey with us so openly and bravely, as I like to say. She's my very first guest ever on this podcast, and so that's very special to me. I had listed her as someone I wanted to have before I ever knew she even had this diagnosis. So that's how special she is to me. Thank you, Monica. But I'm not finished talking to her yet. So, um, Monica, another question I'd like to ask you is just about your hopes for the future in terms of your own, health and wellness, but also for research and advocacy for melanoma. Anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I want to fight this. I want to be here, I want to be here to my, gosh, 80s, hopefully, I want to be a warrior. I want to fight this and say I'm cancer free, right? Everybody wants that. But
Yeah.
again, I've got to, like, I can't worry about what's happening in a year or 5 years. I've got to live today, right? That's my most important thing I have to live for. But as far as like research, there was something that came out the other day, which was huge. And I kind of call myself like like a melanoma geek warrior, whatever, because I do as much research as I can. But a couple months ago, I stumbled across something that the FDA was trying to get approved. So it's called like TIL, but it's basically what they do is, and it's so advanced and it's so cool. I don't know if it'll ever be something that I can take advantage of, but it's out there. And they basically take cells out of your body and they take them into a lab and they mutate them, and then they put them back in your body, and then they attack the cancer cells. So it's like a really promising thing for melanoma, but I think it's also promising for other types of cancers, but really, really about melanoma. So that's huge. That's a huge advancement. So there's, I stay on top of those things, and I've I've heard a lot of great things about it. I actually heard about it through Melanoma Warriors on Facebook. That's how I heard
That
about this. So, yeah.
That is very, very cool. Well, that is very promising and very cool. And I am with you. I can't wait to see you in your 80s, still looking all fashion forward and beautiful and all of that. I have no doubt. I've learned a lot from you today, and I appreciate it, not just about melanoma, but about the willingness to fight forward, if you will. I like the warrior word. I think that can give a lot of people a lot of hope and diligence in their own battles, whatever those may be. So I appreciate that. So let's tell how they can get in touch with you. Dan, can you put up Monica's website, houseofmoboutique.com? You can shop online for beautiful things like I'm wearing and like she's wearing today. And you can reach out to her, follow her on TikTok at Melanoma Sux, because it does. There's no other way to say that. Is that
right?
and then
Then
some other
also, sorry,
Go
my
ahead.
TikTok is for the boutique is Boutique Babes. We didn't have it up there, but I wanted to. We have some really great content that's out there. It's fun. It's fun. A lot of
It
fun
is.
content.
Monica allowed me to model for her a couple of times, and my husband Basil with Jay, her husband. We had some fun doing that. So Melanoma Sucks and Boutique Babes on TikTok, and then some of the resources for melanoma or any kind of cancer for the American Cancer Society is cancer.org. Go there. There's a ton of information as well as support resources there. So that gets you off of Google for some things, everybody. And then specifically for melanoma, we found a great site called curemelanoma.org. So check that out. And as always, if anybody would like to get in touch with me, skyviewcoaching.com is my website. You can also scan the QR code here and go straight there. You can find my book, The Gift of Shift, a link from the website to get to that. So no matter what you or someone you care about is going through right now, you don't have to do this alone. So take that step of reaching out. As Monica was saying, find support. Go to an organization or a trusted friend or find a Facebook group. I guarantee you there's a group already created with just what you need. There is an abundance of resources. When we're willing to look up from our pain, we can seek and find them. So as we conclude this episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud, just remember that healing is not a linear journey. It's a process of profound transformation. So if today's stories resonated with you, share this podcast with those who might need a lifeline of their own. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. And connect with me on social media. You'll find me on Facebook at Skyview Coaching and at Ann Papayotti on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. Let me know your thoughts, your stories, and the topics that you'd like for us to talk about here in future episodes. So until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. Thank you for listening. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Till next time.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.